Hey everyone. So today we have Rubén, CEO and founder of Airtm. Airtm is one of the leading global payment providers, especially using stablecoins. And what you'll hear about in this episode is what we'll call the modern payment rails. Now, this episode absolutely cracks me up because 6 months ago, if you had asked me, how does blockchain, Bitcoin, stablecoins, you name it, how do they impact the future of work? I would have said, honestly, not at all. That is until meeting Rubén and learning more about the stablecoin infrastructure. Now, let me preface this by saying that I didn't lose, but I missed a lot of opportunities to make a lot of money early in the days in Bitcoin. So I was in San Francisco when the first Bitcoin boom was happening. And I'm telling you, every single week, someone was quitting because they made enough to retire. So all that to say, when we look at stablecoins, let me give you the quick reason that I think that this could be something really disruptive. And then you'll see the episode and you'll learn from Rubén himself. When looking at the global south and non-fully developed regions, the education and the talent is typically incredible. The problem is that it's so tough to do business that either it gets too expensive or the experience is poor. Think about things like inflation, and what you start to get is when you really should only be paying this person, say $20 an hour, you're really paying them, say $40 or $60 or $100 an hour. And that $20 an hour would go really, really far, but there's so many associated fees. Now, when we look at what stable coins can do, the way that I take this is, what if you could mobilize the full globe and the fully global south, in that you can have 20% cost savings, 80% cost savings, not because the person is getting paid less, but purely because you're using modern payment rails. Now, to me, that's what my dumb business brain took away in terms of, I don't care about the technology behind it. I just care that it is a foundational leap in how we can pay the global south. Now, here's another quick thing. The data that stablecoins and a blockchain infrastructure has potentially solves a lot of other things. So we pay a lot of money to do things like KYC, know your customer. We have a lot of supportive infrastructure like EORs, AORs, CORs, you name it, just because we don't exactly know either who this individual is, or we have to have so much controls just to be able to pay them. When leveraging the blockchain and stablecoin in this infrastructure, some of these problems might go away. Now, I'm going to intentionally stop there and enjoy this episode and really think to yourself that this is more than something related to freelance or even work or talent. This is leveraging technology to create foundational leaps in how you grow companies. And in this case, it's by leveraging the modern financial infrastructure. So enjoy Rubén, but most importantly, go drive some change. All right. Well, Rubén, thank you for hopping on. First question is always, where in the world are you?
Hi, Matthew. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm in Mexico City. Where are you?
I am in Atlanta, but I pretty much live in a plane. So Austin yesterday, Atlanta today, tomorrow, who knows? But you know, it's funny. We had a guest from Mexico City last week, and we were going over like top restaurants, top coffee shops and stuff. And so, because Mexico City's got like the best food in the world, right? So from your perspective, what are some of your favorite Mexico City restaurants?
Wait, who was this? From Mexico?
It was a platform CEO. It's going to kill me for forgetting. It's because I'm tired, okay? Not because I forget the name. But the CEO of Catalyst, actually, one of the leading like independent consulting platforms in Mexico.
Awesome. Well, you have to introduce us.
I will gladly. You two will get some tacos. And actually, I do have a question. Are breakfast tacos big in Mexico City, or is that just like an Austin, Texas thing, acting like it's a Mexican thing?
It's an Austin, Texas thing. It's I guess like an American thing.
It's very American.
It's funny because out of the range of Mexican breakfast options, breakfast tacos truly sound like the worst. We have so many awesome like breakfast plates.
Yeah.
huevos rancheros, huevos a la mexicana, chilaquiles, enchiladas, enfrijoladas, enmoladas, and you chose like Mexican tacos. No one has tacos. Like there's some tacos that you could have. Basically, you could use tortillas for everything. And if you put eggs on a tortilla, you could have like I guess a breakfast taco. And sometimes you could have, if you go to like certain taco places, you have egg tacos for sure. It's not my favorite breakfast, but
well, noted. I'll make sure to tell my friends next time I'm in Austin, hey, this is the least of. They're still pretty good. Not gonna lie, still pretty good. That's how bad our food is here in the U.S. But in terms of a topic that we've not fully covered, and so we're so pumped to have you on this. And we're talking about global payments, and we're talking about more than a freelance workforce or even entrepreneurship. We're talking about digital entrepreneurship and the fact that your payment ecosystem enables the world to go round, right? So it's we're talking about massive things here. How would you describe Airtm and sort of the journey of where you are now?
Airtm is a platform for online workers throughout the global south and for their places of online work, where if you look at people who supply work in all these marketplaces, freelance marketplaces, data handling marketplaces, BPOs, home rentals, content creation, social creation, whatever, a lot of these people live throughout the global south, but they're actually like nowhere to be found. You could find a lot of them on Instagram, on LinkedIn. You can find them on a bunch of platforms that they're somewhere online, but they're just not nicely organized in the internet. And the internet likes that. It likes to organize and bundle people and industries. And so we tried to organize this market. It's a very complex market, so we can make it more efficient. And we start with the world's best payment service for this specific market, to help these enterprises, these large work providers, mainly in the US, deliver the most efficient payouts to global workers, we call them digital entrepreneurs, throughout the global south, and the most efficient cash outs for them so that they could live wherever and thrive by working online because of the ease of cashing out.
And how, bring us back to the early days, because it was started around 2015, right? So this is not a company that happened last night, right?
No.
And your background, were you computer science? I know you were engineering, but bring us back to day one. What was going on?
I was in engineering school. I was studying engineering on sustainable development in Mexico City. I took some time off to work at a Bitcoin startup in San Francisco, because I wanted to start a business, and Bitcoin sort of sounded very interesting and state of the art, cutting edge. And so I took this random job at this random company, and they had this very awesome API, and we were compelled to use it to build a product on it because no one was building on this API. And so it was like, hey, you guys build something. And we were trying to understand why Bitcoin was being used anywhere in the world so we could sell them more efficiently on this Bitcoin platform or this exchange. And we stumbled into this fucked up situation. Sorry, you can bleep that out if you want, but
swear all you want, man. Go nuts.
People in certain countries live on these currency regimes where there's rampant inflation because the government is issuing more and more money, like the US government sometimes, and they restrict people's ability to buy foreign currency to save or to hedge against inflation. And so you're stuck in this hyperinflationary spiral where you're always wanting to sell your local fiat position as fast as you can, because you know that tomorrow, next minute, is going to be worth less. And so there's all this supply of local currency and all this demand of strong currency, good money. And that just makes the price of good money go up and up and up. And that's why you end up in a hyperinflation, 50% inflation. And Bitcoin was a great tool for these people in places like Argentina and Venezuela. And we basically decided to use this crypto exchanges API to give people access to a crypto dollar 10 years ago, to give them access to financial freedom. And that's why we built Airtm.
And how, from that original statement, so in 2015, because the white paper came out when 2008 or 2009, and then obviously, lots of years to percolate. In 2015, this was right before its first real blip. Because when was the first one? Was that 2016?
No, the first one was a bit before. Yeah.
Okay. This is how I know you're an OOG. And it's because in 2016, I was in San Francisco, and that's when people started leaving their jobs when they didn't have to, right? So that was the first in my head of like, ooh, boy, did I not join the trend. And obviously I'm still working, so I didn't put any money into Bitcoin.
It's a passion project.
It's what?
It's your passion project. That's what you're
Yeah, exactly. And from a commercialization perspective, was it as simple as, hey, let's put this website up and whoever's going to go? I mean, how tough has it been from 2015 to now? How many different pivots, iterations? Obviously, I'm assuming the first thing you worked on isn't exactly what it is today.
So I'd say that as an entrepreneur, you're always trying to generate value, right? That's how you create value for yourself, is by creating value for someone else. And then you exchange the value that you create for money. Value is tightly related to people's problems.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to solve the biggest problem we could to generate the most value for us, essentially. And this issue of hyperinflation seemed like a very big problem for people. We raised $250,000 in October 2015 from friends and family. And we built this product. We spent most of this, it was very simple. It's like $1 account. You see a balance in dollars. And then it had an add, withdraw, and send button. And we basically spent all this money, these $250,000, advertising in 2 countries, in Argentina and Venezuela, to try to understand where we could see what type of adoption, selling this MVP that we had created. We were able to acquire Argentine users for like $1 or $2, and then we were able to acquire a Venezuelan user for like 10 cents. And so it's like, okay, let's focus all of our attention to these people because they really see the need for a $1 savings account. It's restrictionless. And I guess the one thing that has stayed constant at Airtm is that sort of first idea that the value we'll be able to capture will be directly related to the value that we add for people. And so that sort of has guided Airtm as its North Star, where, a few years after selling dollars to Venezuelans, while we were growing 40% a month for 2-3 years, we were getting discounted because we had this business in Venezuela. And honestly, it was a fair discount because sometimes there was no electricity. Sometimes the government was going after our team locally with like SWAT teams to their homes. And it was not sustainable. And we truly needed to leave Venezuela, a country that was in total turmoil. And so we realized that the platform we had built, which had this local currency to US dollar exchange marketplace, like an over-the-counter trading marketplace for virtual dollars, where you and I could exchange out each other's virtual dollars for local currency amongst ourselves, and Airtm just made it very safe. It was being used throughout the region by people who were freelancers, getting paid by PayPal and needing to cash out to local currency. Our exchange platform enabled someone to go from PayPal to Airtm and from Airtm to local currency in 30 minutes, where if you used PayPal's native cash out route, it took you 7 or 10 days. And so people were willing to pay 30% of the money they earned online, because that was the cost of doing that conversion on Airtm, just for a quick cash out. And for us, that was like, okay, this problem that we're solving is worth 30% of people's money. Let's focus there. And so that was the second sort of evolution and insight that led to probably the modern version of Airtm, which is a platform that's pretty much just focused on facilitating payments for people who work online from their places of online work who are using PayPal and sometimes Payoneer. Although Payoneer, I believe they care more about their end clients' sort of experience cashing out, and they acknowledge that they sometimes don't have the best rails, and so they work with a myriad of payment providers like Airtm to deliver better cash outs. PayPal has a different perspective on how they're doing it. Maybe the PYUSD stablecoin they launched has to do with easier off-ramping for their users. I don't know. I haven't seen a firm move towards that yet, but maybe. Anyway, that's what we were focused there.
That is so interesting. So let me ask a really quick question that might be kind of dumb, but hopefully it's not too dumb. So the exchange is purely local to foreign. So is it purely like US to global south, or is it also, can I exchange with someone down the street?
You in Austin, you cannot exchange with anyone down the street. We are not an American money transmitter. And so our services in the US for now are exclusive to American enterprises.
Gotcha. Okay. So purely, US company to the individual in the global south.
Exactly. And once you work for one of our big enterprise partners, we work with licensed custodians and liquidity providers. I don't know, a bunch of our infrastructure is complex in the US to be able to facilitate these flows for American enterprises. It's actually quite simple. I just explained it, but I don't want to give more context. I can if you want, but hey, once a payment lands in the global south, then you sort of leverage this marketplace to actually cash out your payment. Where there in Argentina or in India or in Bangladesh, Philippines, Pakistan, Colombia, Bolivia, I just told you like are big countries, you're actually able to meet the random person online to sell them our platform's now denominated in USDC. So you sell them your USDC leveraging our escrow, and they send you payment for that USDC leveraging an outside payment method like Pix in Brazil or Voila in Argentina, whatever local fiat transfer method. And so locally you sell in that way.
Gotcha. So listen, there's two directions. I'm going to let you pick which one you want to go down. And one direction is what has been the growth in LATAM and the global south when it comes to digital entrepreneurship and, freelance workers. So that's one direction, and we can hit on both. The second direction is what is the implication and what is things like stablecoins and what is the future of, a crypto market, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, you name it. What does that look like? And it is very timing because the US put out an announcement last week related to this, right? So you're the expert here. I have no idea, right? When it comes to crypto and stablecoins and you name it. But you take your path on which one you want to hit first.
So I can hit them both. So I guess the reason why online work has been growing so much, it's double-digit growth of the whole industry, meaning the online work industry has been seeing double-digit growth in the last 10 years, where there's more and more people working online. And you work online, I work online, we understand the benefits. A lot of the people who are listening work online, they understand the benefits. There's an added benefit of working online when you live throughout the global south and you could earn in dollars. And that has made online work a lot more attractive for a lot of these people. And that has been compounded by the ease of access to online learning tools, where right now you can have someone who's earning $100 per hour in the US or somewhere in the global north, quote unquote. That's, super qualified, very experienced at X task. And you could have the same level of experience in the global south, but with the expectation of earning 20 per hour. And so that has also given rise to the demand of global south online workers. And so that has been sort of what has made online work grow so much. And it's double-digit growth throughout the world, but growth is mainly centered in places like India, the Philippines, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Argentina, Colombia, Bolivia, Mexico, Brazil. So it's mainly centered there. What do I see as the future of stablecoins? Well, I think that the US and regulators and also the sort of private industry are sort of finally acknowledging that the world of payments could be better with stablecoin infrastructure. Right now, cross-border payments happen. Well, I won't get into the $130 trillion industry of like big payments between businesses and businesses, but if you sort of look at our world, businesses from payments from businesses to consumers, consumers to businesses, consumers to consumers, and sometimes small and medium business cross-border payments. They happen through places like PayPal and the like. And these payments sort of leave people stranded on the edges with money they can't really use. PayPal is very connected to the US banking system. You could basically send $1 in PayPal to your bank and receive $1 in your bank. That's not the case in most places. And so I believe in others that having virtual cash to pay people across borders is better. They could do whatever they want with that cash. They could take it out of the wallet to another wallet. They could maybe spend it. And local companies can become very compatible with that virtual cash, right? Where local wallets can say, hey, I'm going to enable USDC deposits. So no matter where you're earning money, you can give them this USDC address and they can send you USDC to this wallet and you'll just have that USDC wallet there, even though the company where you worked and your wallet company locally have nothing to do with each other, right? So I guess virtual cash is better for cross-border payments and there's no middleman. It's just better. What do I think about the future of the industry? I think there's going to be a lot of different financial service providers that are enabled by this online cash that are tailored for very specific market segments where, PayPal is a very big generic product that bundles a bunch of use cases. I believe that this new technology enables us entrepreneurs to say, hey, rather than using PayPal's generic solution, use my very specific solution. And all hyper sort of specialize on your set of problems so that you find in me not just payment services, but a full suite of services that cover your full set of needs. And so I see a future in which PayPal's unbundled, thanks to technology like this that makes spinning up a payment service easy as 1, 2, 3.
And when you say, so two things really get my attention. The first is when you say no middleman, right? I think that's like the promise of every single technology seems to be no middleman or middleman replaced by software, right? So it's like instead of a 30% margin, it's 1% plus the service cost or something like that. So that one really, really gets me. The second is when you say the unbundling aspect of this, does that mean that each payment provider is specialized to a type of worker? For example, hey, this is the best freelancer solution, or this is the best freelance platform solution. What do you mean by the unbundling and specialization?
If you go to paypal.com/fees, you'll be able to see the myriad of products that PayPal offers. And they're products that are priced specifically to a precise use case and an industry. And that just talks to the breadth of PayPal's offering. It's very wide, And I figure each one of those products could be a standalone platform because it merits it. It's big enough to where, if you focus on B2B payments for small and medium businesses, that's probably like $150 billion industry. Probably justifies one very big unicorn that just does that. It's not as big as PayPal, but B2B payments are going to be growing and growing and growing. You could justify, hey, building a company for this precise industry. And then on our space, we believe payments to online workers justifies its own platform. And notice I say platform, not payment service provider, because I think it needs, or just having a better payment service than PayPal probably won't make you a better platform or a better alternative to PayPal, because PayPal can always lower your fees. And so you want to actually add value, not by making it more efficient. You actually want to add value on top of efficiency in payments, which are being seen throughout the world. Money movement is tending to be super efficient, like reaching 100% efficiency soon. So that's not going to make it such that you create this platform and everyone migrates to this platform. And so I think beyond payments, we have to sort of say, all right, what does this sort of segment of this economy need on top of payments? For instance, getting specific with our specific industry, and I could give examples of others, but I think that means in the world of online work, when you're hiring or you have gigs essentially for 10,000 people throughout the global south, A, you need to be able to find these people. B, you need to be able to verify that they are who they say they are. C, you need to be able to verify that they are indeed qualified for a specific gig, that they're not just lying. D, you need to verify that they're one person and not the same person trying to like fake being 10 people. And D, you need to pay them. F. So you need to pay them, and that's the last part. But there's these other things, and then on the recipient side of the online worker side, you don't just need to get paid. You also need to be able to be found, and you need to be able to find online work and to generate value, and then ultimately get paid. And so that's the realm or the scope of Airtm, as it relates to how wide we want our product offering and how deep we want our product offering to be as it relates to the online work economy. And, if you look at the online work, but the cross-section that's more like full-time employees or contractors that are hired by American companies, which is another very big segment that's attended or used to be attended by PayPal. Now, this is sort of taken or absorbed by the employers of reference or of record, companies like Deal, Oyster, Tapalti, Papaya, Rippling. They all sort of offer whatever the enterprise needs in order to hire someone compliantly across borders. But ultimately, they're a payment platform, right? But they're just very focused on this precise need. That's another example of a platform saying, hey, this merits its own service provider, not just a generic payment service.
So that's fascinating. And one of the things that we see is on the side of the growing, and we call it flexible workforce only because, freelance, gig, fractional, there's so many buzzwords, but so long as the mediation is digital first, and then typically the contract is self-employed, but as long as it's not full-time, perpetual expectation of 40 hours a week, right? We just say kind of screw it, call it flexible. I can't find a better word is the way we put it. But when you look at what's blocking it right now, it's mostly blocked not in the startup or SMB side. It's blocked at the enterprise level, but specifically getting past the enterprise risk controls. And those risk controls are exactly what you're talking about in terms of, is the person who they says they are? Is there not multiple people? And so I have multiple of these, I got multiple laptops, because for every enterprise client or most enterprise clients, they even have to have a different laptop that either they ship or it goes through their VDI. And every single month you have to hop on. Yep, this is my face. Here's my ID, right? And so it sounds like part of what you're talking about. So two things. One, it sounds like just through your platform and your payment layer and your rails, it sounds like you're able to get rid of probably 5 different industries, because one industry is just the background checks, right? Background checks in themselves are expensive. Everyone's doing them, but why should you, right? Second thing is either getting rid of or significantly augmenting the EOR industry, because if you can keep someone on forever, but the background check you don't really have to worry about anymore, then the EOR becomes infinitely more important, and it's really just your rails. So how do you think about the industries or the current activities and tasks that we're doing in the state of talent? How do you think about the fact that you're probably getting rid of a lot of these in the best way possible, because then it's more fair for the talent and the company?
I don't know. I just addressing the EOR sort of vertical or industry. I think they actually provide very specific value, and they solve a very specific problem for a very specific type of need. Meaning, you want to hire someone compliantly, and they provide everything you need to hire someone compliantly in India, so you don't have to worry about the headache. I don't think Airtm will ever sort of evolve to be that. But perhaps our payment rails could service EORs, and we're constantly talking to all of them. And perhaps also our identity verification layer and credentials checking and things like that we could probably do. And I don't think we're sort of getting rid of any one of them. I think we're sort of bundling them into a single sort of one-stop shop type of solution, as you say, so that you don't have to have 5 integrations and be worried that your persona or Onfido integration are always at the best, and that your fraud monitoring tools are catching the most fraud, because you actually don't have a lot of visibility other than the fact that someone signed up with their email, you verify that identity, and then you send them money, but they're actually whomever on the other side. So I think we can just make the industry safer. But what I actually think is that the constraint on this growth, or the growth of the economy, is not necessarily the risk that enterprises are willing to take. I think they take that risk, and then it's priced into their solution. Meaning the price they charge their own consumers captures the perceived risk of a single transaction to compensate for the risks. But I think it's more on the actual demand for these platforms, where Airbnb can't have more hosts if there's no more people wanting to stay at Airbnb, or Uber doesn't have more jobs for drivers if there's no more riders on the other side. And so I think what we can do to help these platforms get more demand for their platform is by helping them grow very fast, and by allowing them to focus their attention fully on demand generation, rather than having to spend their time on supply operations, where we can help them optimize a lot of what they need, from acquiring supply, verifying supply, teaching supply, paying supply, whatever. We'll do all that, so they could just focus their attention on that other side. And then we also think through time, Airtm will make it easier for other marketplaces to spin up. So because, the next freelancer.com won't have to do a huge sort of effort and haul to set up their supply operations side of the platform.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the future, they're able to do a lot of that with Airtm, right? And so the next time that new freelancer.com wants to go to market, it'll be that much easier. And so we think that will make it easier. And, just efficiencies drive growth.
It's such an interesting, absolutely. What's interesting is, if you look at what traditional talent platforms have had to do over the past 10 years and currently right now, is in the end of the day, they're best at, I don't even want to call it matchmaking. They're best at finding at sourcing, but also managing the right pool of high quality talent. And so this is not the $40,000 a month OpenAI task workers, right? This is the highly creative web developers, designers, even writers, you name it. This population, it is hard to find the right ones, manage the right ones, and then be able to, within 5 days, get them onto an assignment that both they want and both the client wants. That is a very hard thing. Now you add on, oh, by the way, you actually have to be a tech company, and you have to go build custom algorithms for the matching, and you have to go build custom pay. And it's damn hard. Now, I'm going to ask you a question as related to like the current ecosystem, because in current state, we have Stripe, right? We have PayPal, and you guys are doing something really insane and cool, which is you're leveraging top-notch technology like stablecoins and like, the rails you have. So how do you slice and dice? Like if you were to talk to a talent platform CEO right now using that specific vertical example, how would you help them understand? Because they might say something to you like, oh, we'll just keep using Stripe, right? Or we just have a no-code marketplace built on Bubble that's using Stripe, or we're manually sending invoices every month. How would you help them understand, how they should be thinking about technology?
Well, I think that they probably all have this challenge of maintaining supply engaged or having to expand supply from one day to the next. And they can't do that with any other platform. And they probably could benefit from having that very flexible click of a button type of access to a very, very large, the world's largest community of online workers. We have more than 1 million online workers registered with Airtm. They're active, they're actively earning. So having that type of like flex is very cool. Then having the ability to verify these individuals, to understand that they are in fact who they're saying they are. And then having an extra protection layer where it will help you install fraud monitoring processes to make sure that your clients are not getting ripped off. And will sort of help you monitor that through time. And then lastly, will help you offer the best payout experience, but not just payouts that are simple for your treasury team, but when they land on your sort of digital entrepreneur's account or in your supplier's account locally, we guarantee they'll have the best cash out experience. They're going to be able to cash out in 6 minutes at 2.5%. And that's in comparison to a 7-day cash out, and up to 10% fee using PayPal. And, cross my heart, if you need to pay out someone in a very sophisticated country that we don't yet service fully, we'll get that done.
Yeah. One of the real powers here that I think you're going to be able to unlock is, and it's funny, like you're calling it the verification, the KYC protocol and KYC process, most people don't understand it and don't even find out that that's why they're not able to access the enterprise. And so we deal a lot of times with what'll happen, because our business has both sides, right? We have the enterprises scaling flexible talent models up to $100 million plus. Then we also have the talent platforms. And so a lot of times what we see is the enterprise company won't tell the talent platform why, but they'll stop spending at like $1 or $50 million. And the talent platform will be like, wow, like that's a lot of money, but why have we hit the ceiling? And then you tell them, you're like, it's actually really small because they're spending $1 to $5 billion on external talent. So you're a tiny, tiny, tiny little vendor that they simply turned the switch off and they didn't tell you why. The usual reason why is that the KYC process and the verification process are not up to either the IT or the legal or the procurement standards. And rather than even, it's so simple, rather than just telling them, they'll simply freeze it or block it at the current level. Now, if they have it, it's just like, they do the technical checks of like OAuth and like all the various things. It's literally as simple as, yes, we have this, but most of them don't even know, right? Like the MSA gets blocked or something. So if you can power that, Rubén, oh my God, is there lots of business to be made for talent platforms with enterprises at scale, right? That takes them from 100 million to 1 billion if they can do that with you. Now, if we look at the next 2 to 5 years, and actually, you know what? I'm going to give you two directions. So one side is,
just to quickly respond to what you said.
Yes.
We think that, you know how you can sign up with or sign in to most services using, Google or Apple or some federated login is what it's called.
Yeah.
And that service, by you leveraging Google to sign up or to sign in, you're actually giving that service access to a whole bunch of information that Google has of you so that the service can service you better. And we think this space needs a federated login or a sign-up process that allows these marketplaces to truly understand who's on the other side of that email. And as a payment service provider, it's compulsory for us. We really need to know who these people are. And we spend a lot of money making sure that our network is the safest in the world. So ultimately, if we can't do that, we can't really work in the US. And so that is just information that's sitting there, but it shouldn't. The more information you have about your online workers, the more confident you'll be able to sort of give them work or to sell them in your platform as providers or as your supply to meet that demand. So we think this space needs that. And so you could see in the future, expect something like that.
Have you heard the term global passport? Has that been thrown around?
Well, we're in the crypto space. So a lot of sort of portable KYC credential tokens have been ideated and thought about at Airtm and outside Airtm. Yeah, it's like
if you could enable a global passport for these talent platforms to then give to their workers. And I mean, the comparable is very tactical and it's large. And that is, instead of a new background check per every project a freelancer hops on, instead, if they have one global passport that updates, either quarterly or yearly, then they can take on 2 to 5 new either gigs or freelance projects a month. Based like that is a massive cost savings, because you look at the cost and the time. Some of these background checks take 1 to 2 weeks. They always ask the same things, addresses, all that kind of stuff, right? So if you could replace that, man, boy, our industry would be 10xing more than it already is growing at 17.7% CAGR. So last question for you, Rubén. And actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you a quick little preview question and then last question. What's going on with the US and sort of our Bitcoin strategy? How would you describe it, and what are the implications, across the globe?
Unprecedented. That's how I would describe it. Well, I guess you have Bukele in El Salvador, so that's the president. But I think for Bitcoin and everyone who believes in it, that the US president is sort of endorsing it to the point where they've made it official there's going to be a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the US government, is crazy. It's like the US government, who's potentially the biggest holder ever, like it could potentially be the biggest holder, right? It would be justified if they all of a sudden bought 1% of all Bitcoin. To sort of, I guess, acknowledge the importance of it enough to hold it is quite meaningful. Like if I told you like what were the steps to get to the point in which the US actually has a huge amount of Bitcoin being held, this is probably like the first or a great step in that direction. So I think it's very telling of where the US is going, and the world sort of follows the US. Most countries follow the US, whether they like to accept it or not. And so I could see other countries wanting to accept this. And, I think Bitcoin at $82,000 is a bargain.
Yeah, I mean, and here's to your point on that, I think it's more than Bitcoin. It's from our vantage point, what we're seeing is it's a full understanding that the world is going to change, right? Like a lot of for the past 50 years, a lot of standards we've accepted is going to change. Now, in our world, in our tiny little corner of talent platforms and the freelance economy and flexible workforce, in that tiny corner, that is a monumental change to say that instead of defaulting to full-time in office, we're going to default to a flexible workforce, right? So that's a massive change. The US government, specifically the DoD, has invested in a project called Gig Eagle, which is a DoD-wide freelance platform, which, to your point, the fact that the US is getting behind that, and you'll probably see it across our channels right now, Ruben, the fact that the US is getting behind that is the US saying, yep, we recognize that the future of the workforce is not what it used to be the past 50 years, whether it's payment or the actual workers themselves. So
I actually think it's something different. I actually think it means that the world has changed so much that the US government is having to adapt to not fall behind. I don't think it's saying that the government is by no means the fastest to react to anything, right?
Yeah.
And so it's probably more like, oh shit, we have to do something about it because we're becoming irrelevant, or we will become relevant if we don't accept these paradigms.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And actually we have some quick data where if you look at hiring from the US to other regions, there's been, and this is like freelancer hiring, there's been a 260% increase. But where it gets interesting is that the increase is to Eastern Europe, so Poland and Eastern Europe countries, followed by Middle East, Asia, and LATAM. So there is clear data that the EU is starting to get left behind in terms of freelance. And it's mostly because those countries, there's the cost, right? I'm not going to deny it's not because of cost, but it's mostly related to the impact and the value of the work we're getting is just light years better. So interesting data for you. And they need you.
I honestly haven't sort of dug into what you're describing, the shift. But I will say that for the U.S. government was trying to protect American jobs, it's like, I don't know, it's conflicting that they're wanting to outsource other things, except with the idea of like, hey, wanting to save money, which makes sense, but yeah, I don't know.
So you would think that you're ready. That was our first reaction. If you look at it entirety, it actually says the opposite, which is that the overall freelance growth in the US is between 100 and 250%. So the volume is higher in the US and it's catching up, not in the US. So the 260 looks large but small when you look at volume versus percentage. And the second fold of that is that a lot of the hiring is happening from US small businesses to be able to then hire more people full time. So it's kind of a mindset shift. At first we saw it, Ruben, and we were like, oh no, this is not good.
So it's not for the US government itself.
No.
Okay.
This is for US companies. Yeah. But we were still worried, right? We were like, oh no, this is totally against the trend of helping Americans. But no, it was actually, and then the third data that actually was like the closer on this was pro independent contractor policies. You can quantifiably prove they lead to overall job growth, whereas you can quantitatively prove they lead to a negative 6% in overall employment. So the more that you see hiring of freelancers, the more you see overall growth, be it GDP, actual company revenue, or actually even more jobs getting added. It's, yeah. But listen.
It makes sense. And I wonder what was that specific policy that caused a 6% decline in employment or I guess, negative growth in that specific metric.
It's called California's AB5. That's the exact, I'll send you the data after. But listen, last question for you. And that is, what in the world? So if you're a talent platform CEO or, and I know it's a broad question, or an enterprise executive, or even just an entrepreneur, what should they be doing right now? What should they be reading? What action should they be taking? And then most important, after that question, where can our listeners find you?
Well, they should write me an email at ruben@airtm.io. Be glad to sort of hear their needs and see if we could help simplify their sort of supply operations to focus on their core of their business, generating demand for their platform. What should they be doing? I think understanding stablecoins and knowing that you've all been paying for very inefficient payments for the last since the inception of your platform means that there's a lot more money to capture if you had more efficient payments. Where, if 70 cents out of the dollar that you're paying out ultimately lands in the bank account for your supplier, that means your supplier is being 30% more expensive than it has to be, because it knows they're going to lose 30% on fees or whatever. And so there's potentially that big gain in efficiency, but by removing legacy payment service providers. And so I'd say just think of it from that perspective. It's not that maybe your current provider pays or charges you 1 or 1.5% or 2% and $1 per payout. It's more like end to end, the efficiency of your remittance is very low, and therefore your supply charges a lot more. So they would charge a lot less if you could make the end to end efficiency of a cross-border payment way higher. Where if they're actually receiving 98 cents out of $1 you pay them, your dollars would be worth more for them. They'd be willing to take less dollars from you to do the same job. So that's, I guess, the idea.
That is incredible. All right, listen, everyone, Rubén at airtm.com, right, Rubén?
Yeah.
Okay, Rubén at airtm.com. I can't believe you gave away your email. Good luck now, Rubén, getting a flood of emails. And for those out there, if you email Rubén and you mention Human Cloud, a free book from Human Cloud is going your way. Listen, Rubén, thank you so much for hopping on the Human Cloud pod.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for listening, everyone.